The Goat House is back with the biggest winners from day 4 of the NFL Combine. The offensive linemen, quite a few standouts here. At the end of the video, I'll rank my top 10 performances from the entire Combine. So the guys that helped themselves the most. Let's break it down. From Group 1 of the offensive linemen, Josh Conerly Jr. of Oregon. Feel like we talked about a lot of Oregon players this week, but huge fan of his game. Left tackle, very quick. He showcases athleticism. One of the top vertical jumps really ever, all time in the Combine. I like him in an outside zone scheme where he can kind of use his ability to get in space, get downfield, hit those next level blocks. But he just improved as his career went on, as this season went on. Last year looking like a mid-round pick. This year looks like a top half of the first-round pick. I already thought he was a mid-round 1 guy, but he was kind of getting mocked by most. Late round 1 or talked about, big board range was back part of round 1. Definitely think he should be a lock to go within the first half of the first round, in my opinion. He could go as high as the 9th pick. Could a team like the Saints take him, put him at left tackle for the future? Definitely a possibility, but yeah, teams I can definitely see him fitting with or see him landing on in the draft. The Dolphins, the Bears, those teams can plug him in at left tackle, and then the Commanders if he slips through a little bit to the back end of the first round, or they can trade up. I guess depending on what they do with Brandon Coleman, I like his upside as a guard. They could keep him at left tackle or they can move him on the guard, so it's going to depend on that. But Conerly Jr., very athletic on tape and showed it at the Combine. Donovan Jackson of Ohio State didn't run the 40, but he was so smooth on the on-field drills. Looked like he did mess up his foot or ankle a little bit, but he kept going through it. And how smooth he was, how quick he was, explosive. He looked like a damn linebacker out there the way he was moving. So a guy that was known as a guard but had to fill in at left tackle when Josh Simmons went down, and it felt like, even though Simmons is his polarizing prospect because his foot quickness, how quick he is, but it felt like Ohio State's offensive line actually got better, and he was just dominant throughout the playoffs, throughout the stretch of the season and the playoffs for Ohio State. So I think a team's going to start him at guard, but you feel comfortable that if your tackle goes down or if you have struggles at tackle, that he could slide out there and play there. Before, he was mainly talked about as an early round 2 guy, but I'm thinking he's going to sneak in the first round. I could see him going as early as the 16th pick to the Cardinals. The Cardinals actually hired Ohio State's offensive line coach to be their offensive line coach. They need someone that can play interior, specifically guard, and they could use someone, one more tackle as well to pair with former Buckeye Paris Johnson Jr. So pretty interesting stuff there. Watch out for the Cardinals. Some people will debate, is 16 a little too early? The Vikings at 24 makes some sense. They definitely could use a guy that could play guard, and they've had an injury at left tackle with Darisaw. So, if he goes down again, you can slide out to tackle a guy like Jackson because he did that at Ohio State. And the Texans as well could use an offensive lineman that is versatile, can play any spot. I could see the Seahawks in the first round, but those are the 3 teams that really stood out the most for Jackson. Minnesota offensive tackle Ariante Ursary with a pretty solid day. Showed his athleticism for a 331-pound dude, so that's pretty impressive. After the Senior Bowl, he was kind of getting some talk about late round 1, and then that kind of disappeared. So maybe kind of sneaking up back in that category because there's a lot of teams that are pretty desperate for offensive tackles. And you look at this offensive tackle class, there's some pretty damn good ones at the top. And then you kind of got Ursary in that next tier where he's late 1, early 2. And then there's a lot of question marks. Guys that could really struggle or could surprisingly be good right away. So it's not really the deepest offensive tackle class. Therefore, teams that need them better get them somewhat early. So that could help Ursary out as well. But again, being a big dude that he is, 331 pounds, to be able to move that way. So could go as early as the 25th pick, depending on if the Texans are more so looking for guard or tackle. Again, Titus Howard, they kind of moved to guard. Will that stay that way? We will see. But the Chiefs might take him at the end of the first if he slips through into the early second. The Patriots, if the Patriots don't grab a tackle in the first round, they're a team to watch. And the Commanders could take him at the end of the first round as well. But a physical offensive tackle that surprisingly has some athleticism to him as well. Gray Zabel helped himself at the Senior Bowl, and he definitely helped himself once again. Was known as a first-round pick after the Senior Bowl. And everyone's kind of been mocking that, but now it just seems like he's an absolute lock and could go even earlier. Some teams will have him. I know he played tackle at North Dakota State, but teams are either going to have him at guard or at center. I could go as early as that, around that Cardinals pick, a team looking for an interior offensive lineman. Seattle could use him at center or guard. That's a really good landing spot there. Minnesota, really, probably guard, but really could use him at either spot. Bradbury hasn't really worked out a ton for them. Could they move on from him? And the Chargers could use him at center or guard, kind of the only two spots they got to fill because the other three on their offensive line are very, very solid. So I like him as fits and possible landing spots at one of those teams in the first round. It really feels like a first round lock. He was awesome when it came to the vertical, one of the best vertical score jumps of all time, I should say, from an offensive lineman, and he was really smooth with the drills on the field. Did not run his 40, though. Armand Membou, a huge winner, was already a top-tier tackle prospect. He could be the first tackle taken, and some teams might view Campbell as a tackle or a guard. Some teams might have him as a top tackle, lacking in length a little bit. Membou could definitely be that top tackle, and some teams might prefer, teams might be set at tackle, right? They might have a left tackle, right tackle, but they badly need a guard. They might take him, put him at guard, and then just stack their offensive line. Definitely could see that as well, but I most definitely see him playing right tackle specifically at the next level. A big dude, 332 pounds and running low 4.9s. Just absolutely ridiculous. So before, he was probably going earlier than top 16, but that was kind of the limit. Now I definitely think he's going in the top 11, like the 49ers at 11 is to take him and put him at right tackle is the latest. But I do think he has a ceiling of the 4th overall pick with the Patriots. They badly need offensive line help, specifically tackle. Everyone mocking them a skill position player, but it could be very similar to the situation last year with Harbaugh going to the Chargers, and everyone's like, they got to take Neighbors when they take Joe Alt. It could be a very similar situation. And the Patriots are more desperate for offensive line than the Chargers were last year, so they could pass up on some very talented players, skill players, for a very talented Armand Membou or Will Campbell with that 4th pick. But some other landing spots that I think will be mocked a ton. Again, the 49ers at 11, the Saints up at 9. How about the Jets? They have Fashanu, hopefully for the long haul, as long as he's healthy, at one tackle spot. How about Membou at the other side? In worst case, slides in the guard and plays well for them there. So the Jets aren't mocked offensive line a ton, but that is definitely possible. So he definitely helped himself, could be the top tackle taken in this year's draft. How about Jared Wilson? A 4.84 40-yard dash, the fastest ever for a center. He's actually top 5 all-time fastest 40 in the combine. All the other 4 are offensive tackles, and 3 of them are damn good offensive tackles. Terron Armstead is up there. Lane Johnson's up there. Those are 2 future Hall of Famers. Another one is Brian O'Neill, who's one of the better right tackles in football. So then you got a center, and Jared. It's absolutely ridiculous. So a lot of teams need a center. Everyone's going to be fighting for Drew Dahlman possibly in free agency. So this would be the guy unless you're playing Zabel at center. Jared Wilson definitely helped his stock. Was kind of more known as a round 3, maybe late round 2 guy. But I think he's locked himself into round 2. I could even see him going in the first round. In that range of teams that possibly could need a center in the back end of the first round. The Packers, the Vikings, the Texans. Seahawks might be a little too early, but it's possible. But I do like the Seahawks as a fit, and that'd be more so a second-round pick for them, or if he gets to the 3rd round. The Niners definitely could use a center. Are they going to value it a ton? They could wait till day 2 and grab a guy like Wilson. And then Jacksonville, I think, could be players for a center as well. They could grab him in the 2nd round. So, the Bears are a notable team that badly need a center. I'm really thinking they're going to add one in free agency. Whether it's Dahlman or Myers or whoever it may be, more likely Dahlman. But so that's why I kind of left them out. But I can put several teams in here. But Wilson, a guy that teams are going to want to work with, a good power center that has freak athleticism, a major winner this year at the Combine. Jonah Savaiinaya of Arizona. He's played guard and tackle in his career out of Arizona. Watching his tape, I actually watched this past week. He was solid at right tackle, and then the only question was his quickness, really, and everyone kind of doubting it because you don't really see him out in space, or you don't see him the timing was a little off. So I think teams were kind of saying he's probably going to be a guard, and then he goes out and runs in the 4.9. So really the only knock you had on him, because he's powerful, he's good, he's got experience at guard and tackle, the only knock on him was the quickness. So maybe it's more of a timing thing, which you definitely could fix with coaching in an NFL program, NFL offensive line. So really helped himself. He was kind of known as a round 3 or a round 4 guy before. Definitely a lock in round 3. I could even see him in round 2. I almost want to say I'm starting to think a team could definitely take him in round 2. More likely to play guard still, but man, his tape at tackle was good. Maybe just more so in a scheme like a gap scheme or inside zone scheme, maybe not an outside zone scheme where you're asking these tackles, if he does play tackle, or offense lineman in general, to get out in space and get downfield in a hurry. So maybe you just don't draft him in that scheme. So, but not that he can't do it, but I do like teams like the Giants, like the Saints. Kellen Moore coming in there with the Saints. I think he could fit he's trying to replicate that Eagles blocking. Definitely could fit that. The Bengals as well. Really solid fits in what they look for in those teams. And there's some other teams, of course, as well. But those are the ones just top of my head that stand out instantly. I'm a fan of his. Whether you play him at tackle or guard, I do understand that he probably has upside at guard because of his physicality. But, man, what he did at the Combine, impressed, was better than expected and maybe kind of proved some doubters wrong a little bit. So he's a guy to watch out for sure on day 2. Arizona been kind of pumping out some offensive linemen lately, too. Some more winners. Kelvin Banks, the offensive tackle from Texas, obviously a first-round pick. Looked pretty smooth out there. Nothing that was super shocking, but obviously pretty athletic for his size. He's a rangy one in the first round. Like, you can see him go very early, one of the very top tackles being selected, or you can kind of see him go in the back end because there's some other guys that are a little flashier, have a little more upside, but definitely should be a first-round pick. Tyler Booker didn't run great, didn't really need to, but, man, he is a freaky big guard. As big of a guard, as strong as a guard as you could find. Feels like he's a top 16 pick. Will Campbell, obviously the length was lacking, but is he a loser for that? No. Worst case, he's going to play guard. He's going to be a damn good one. He was pretty quick, obviously, with a 10-yard split, 40-yard dash, things like that. Broad jump. Tate Ratledge, guard from Georgia. Those Georgia interior offensive linemen were pretty athletic. I view him as a round 2 option. And then Joshua Gray, a very interesting one from Oregon State. I thought he was smooth on the on-field drills. Could be an early day 3 pick. He's interesting because a year ago at Oregon State, when everyone's scouting Taliesin Fuaga, who was a first-round pick for the Saints, everyone's talking about Gray. Like, here's another one coming next year. He's really good. And then he moves over to guard because his size in his future in the NFL says guard, so we want to get a jump start on that. And he looked pretty solid. He actually probably had better tape as a tackle. I guess that's debatable. It's a little on the lighter side, so that almost says tackle. So that's kind of his flaw there, but he's got really good experience on what was a pretty good offensive line at least a year ago when they had Fuaga. So very interesting prospect. And I made a top 10 list for the biggest combine winners combining all 4 days. I thought number 1 was Jalen Knoll, the receiver from Iowa State. I think he's going to be a damn good slot receiver at the next level. Really good route runner. The athleticism off the charts. He even benched a lot too, but his day was just insane. We knew he was solid. We knew he was athletic. That was another level. And it sounds like he is actually going to go in the second round now. So I thought he was the biggest winner, had the best performance. Shamar Stewart, obvious one, edge rusher from Texas A&M, freaky dude for his size, jumped out of the gym, ran out of the gym, or the stadium, I should say. But teams, they want to, especially at that position, they mainly base things off traits. He has the athleticism, he has the size, the power, the strength, the get off, the length. He has all of it. So I think teams are really viewing him as a top tier edge prospect. I think he'll be one of the top 3 taken in this draft. Could even be a top 10 pick. Nick Amanwori, South Carolina safety. I like him at strong safety. He's going to be able to man up on tight ends, which a lot of teams are looking for. Another guy that for 6'3" defensive back was freaky athletic, and I thought the safety 1 ranking, it's a little up for grabs. It feels like it's between the consensus, it's between him and Starks, but man, he is very much in that conversation as a first-round pick. Maxwell Harrison, all these guys feel like number 1. It was tough to, in the top 4 for me. I was pretty firm on Knoll being 1, but 2, 3, 4, you can change those one spot, and it would make sense. But Harrison, fastest guy at the combine. I mean, he lit it up at the Senior Bowl, lit it up at the combine, and the drills as well on the field work. Fantastic. Really good tape at Kentucky. Man coverage corner with upside in zone as well. It feels like he feels like he's got to be a first-round pick and an outstanding outing. And Matthew Golden, who I've been a big fan of from Texas, running a blazing 40 on top of him, being the best route runner in the class, being that fast, and the improvement he showed over the year, and when he showed up in big-time moments, making big-time plays. Put all that together, safe pick with a lot of upside. If you don't count Hunter as a receiver, this could be the top receiver in the class, believe it or not. McMillan didn't even work out, so Golden really helped himself there. Armand Membou feels like he was already a top tackle, but being that big and being that athletic, he's something. Could be viewed as an elite prospect by some teams. Could be the first offensive lineman off the board. If not, he will be the second at worst offensive lineman off the board. Another offensive lineman, Jared Wilson. We talked about him. I mean, no center's been that fast, not even close. Top 5 fastest offensive lineman in combine history. He was not being talked about a ton, even though he was known as a day 2 guy, but he's a lock as an early day 2 guy. Could even sneak into round 1. Freak athlete everyone wants to work with. A lot of teams need centers. How about DJ Giddens? We knew he was a solid running back. Did not expect that freak athletic ability from him at the combine, jumping and running. So it feels like a very safe, at worst, a very safe pick at the running back position. Could be a day 2 pick now. Derek Harmon, I just kept hearing he dominated the interview portion, which is very important. So teams think very highly of him, and he was very athletic on the drills on the field at the combine as well. So some people didn't really mock him in the first. Some people did, but later first, if he feels like a for sure lock in the first, and he's going to go way earlier than expected. And we put James Pierce Jr. in there. I guess some people question off the field, but man, be able to run 4.4s as a lengthy pass rusher that has the production that he has. So we talk about athleticism plus production plus versatility, because he lined up at different spots. Sometimes I'm watching him off ball and his limited reps there and going, man, he's pretty good there. But he is a very solid pass rusher with very good get off. So maybe no overthinking with him. That is a legit first round pick, and maybe an early one, I guess, depending on if there is character concerns. Doesn't seem like a major concern right now, but that is who I decided for the top 10 biggest combine winners. How about Jalen Noel at the top, Iowa State receiver? So he's soaring up the board. Again, watch for him being a lock on day 2. Really sounds like he could be a second round pick, and a very early one, actually. So there you have it. We're going to get to work on an updated mock draft. 2 rounds, a lot of changes there based off of things that we're hearing and how guys performed here. So, and then we're going to get into the free agency stuff. We'll rank the top free agents, landing spots, and we'll do our predictions, multiple videos there. I'm sure we'll have more trade videos. And then grades like crazy videos with the free agents as they're being signed, and that is in another week. So very exciting times here at the Goat House, because it's very exciting times in the NFL. Love this time of year. So join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss any of it. You won't regret it. Appreciate you guys. Going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.